Hey, what's going on, everybody? Griff here. Got Callan behind the camera. What's up, Callan? How you doing?
Good, man. How are you doing?
I'm good. All right, guys. So today we're gonna take a few minutes. We're gonna talk about my favorite fall free rig baits.
Welcome to the Hookup Tackle.
Oh, what a stud.
Yeah. Look at that.
That was sick. Cheers, my friends. Happy Sunday. All right, guys, some breaking news. What's this week at the Hookup Tackle? What a beautiful post-spawn fish.
Look at that.
Look at that gut on that. That's a nice fish.
All right, guys. Everybody knows that the free rig is one of my top techniques, right? I throw it all year round, but as the seasons change, you gotta change with the seasons, right? I like to switch up my baits. I'm gonna talk about what baits I use in the fall, and then let's talk about what the free rig is, how to use it, what you can do with it, and why I like it so much, all right? So let's get started. First, let's talk about what is the free rig. Callan, do you use the free rig?
I've used it maybe once or twice, so I'm going to be learning with the viewers on this one.
Okay, sick. So the free rig, to me, is the most versatile technique there is out there, all right? So it gets its name from the weight. All you have is a free floating or a free swinging weight that's tied. It's not tied, it's looped onto the line, a hook, and a bait. So what the free rig does is the way that it's technically supposed to be used is a lift and drop method. So you're gonna pull this bait up, whatever bait you're using is gonna get the action of the bait. It's gonna come up and then you're gonna pause, you're gonna drop your rod tip, the weight's gonna fall down and it's gonna pull this bait, it's gonna get the action. As soon as the weight hits the ground, this bait's gonna die. It's kind of gonna swing and just die. And then you're gonna work the weight back to the bait. You're gonna repeat that, all right? So that's the way that it's supposed to be used. That's the way it's meant to be used. One of the biggest benefits of the free rig is that wherever you cast this, that weight is gonna fall straight down. So you can pinpoint exactly where you want it to land, and the weight, as long as you keep enough slack on the tip of the rod, the weight's gonna go straight down. You're not gonna get a pendulum, you're not gonna get a spiral or anything like that. That weight's going straight down, all right? So that's a good way to use it. I don't know where it came from, how it was invented. I heard that it was used as a bed fishing bait, so you can get pinpoint accuracy onto the bed. I don't know if that's the fact, but that's what I heard. It makes a lot of sense to me that that is what it is, all right? You get a ton of action on that bait as it's lifting and falling until that weight hits the ground, and then you just get a dead bait that kind of just sinks at the rate of whatever the bait with the hook is gonna fall, all right? How do you set up a free rig? You're gonna use a ringed drop shot weight. So instead of having the clasp on there, it has the ring. Like old school, or the drop shot weights that you tie on instead of clipping on. So there's that right there. Just put the line through it. You tie your hook on there, and then you put your bait of choice on there. Super simple. The setup is super simple. The action is super simple. Everything about it is simple, but the fish, they love it. And what do I mean by when I say versatile? So the free rig can almost replace every other finesse technique to me, all right? It replaces the drop shot, it replaces the jig, it replaces the Jika, it replaces everything because you can almost do everything with it. I can cast it out, I can drag it on the bottom like a Jika or a jig rig, just drags it around the bottom. I can put a skirt on there, I can fish it like a jig. I can put a swim bait on there and I can swim the swim bait. So many different things that you can do with it, all with one setup. You never have to retie. If you want to just switch it up, go from a swim bait to a craw, boom, just change out your bait. And boom, you can switch up your technique. Your personal actions are gonna change everything up for the fish. One other item that a lot of people are using is this knot protector. All right, some type of piece of rubber or soft plastic that goes there, and it keeps the weight from knocking on that knot. Pretty useful tool. I don't use one. I tie a Snell knot, so my knot never needs to be protected. But if you don't like the Snell knot, if you're not a fan of it, you tie a clinch knot or polymer or something like that, where you have a knot that's on the little loop of the hook. You want to protect it, you can put a protector on there. All right, so that is the free rig. All right, I catch probably more than 50% of my fish every year on a free rig. I love it. I throw it often. I feel like when the bite's tough and I need to catch a fish, I can tie on a free rig and I can catch one any time of year, any place, and they will just eat it. What baits am I using this time of year, right? So we don't really get super cold here in Arizona, but the fall is the fall. Our falls might be warm, your falls might be freezing cold. The fall is the fall. The fish are gonna act similar. Most of the year I'm throwing the Doe Live Beaver, all right? In the 3 or the 4 inch. Super sick colors in this bait. The best color right here, Jerome. Super dope. The Beaver to me has the most realistic crawl action there is for a bait. It doesn't look like a crawl. It's not realistically, visually a crawl, but in the way that it moves, when you pull this bait, these big paddles right here, I mean, they thump. They move like this, when the crawl is escaping and it pushes its claws out and you get that puff of dirt. These are moving right there. Also, it swims. You can use it like a swim bait. As you're swimming it, it's swimming. So as you're pulling up and dropping, swimming, it's thumping, it's doing all that stuff. Doe Live Beaver right here, I'm gonna use this until I can't use this. All right, once they stop eating it, then obviously I'm not gonna continue to try to use a bait that they're not eating. It just comes a point in time when the crawfish disappear and the bass aren't looking for them anymore. 90% of the time I'm gonna have this tied on, but what happens when they don't want to eat the crawl anymore? What do you go to? A shad, right? So a shad, a gill, something like that. I will go to the OSP Doe Live stick. I like the 3.5 inch size. Again, all those same colors. So you're never gonna have a color or a bait fish that you're trying to mimic that's, they don't have the color too, right? So this is a shad stick bait style bait. Doesn't have a ton of action. When you work it, it kind of just barely moves, but it looks like a shad, all right? So when it's getting cold out, you don't want your bait, your shad, to have a ton of movement anyway. Those fish are gonna get a little lazy on you. There you go. And this one right here, I love to cast it, work it like your typical free rig. I love to throw it in current and kind of burn it through the current and then kill it and let that weight fall, and then that bait just kind of goes with the current. Pull it back up, throw it back out there. Super dope bait. You can fish it when you've seen balls of shad. When the fish are active, you can fish it when they're eating the shad, and you can fish it when they're not very active. It's just gonna give them something to look at that's similar to what they're eating. It's the right size. The shad have all grown to about this size from the spawn, and then you have some of last year's spawn that didn't grow very well that are about this size, 3.5 inches. It has a great bait fish profile, super soft plastic. Doesn't do a ton, but it does enough to get the fish going crazy. So that's what I do for the shad. When they're on like a gill bite, I'm gonna go to a bull flat. Bluegill in shape, or panfish in shape. It has this little ribbed tail right here. The tail kicks. The best thing about this thing though is when that weight dies, this thing takes a long time to get down. It just flutters. It's flat. There's not much to it, and it takes a long time to get down there. And then when you got bluegill eaters or tilapia eaters or some kind of panfish, and they're looking for these, you remember panfish spawn after the bass, so you have this size at the beginning of fall all over the place. Super sick colors in this too. You have your typical colors. One of my favorite colors right here is called Indie Soggy. Our friend Chris, or Indie Fishing, designed this color right here. Super dope color. It gets bit. I catch a ton of fish on these things right here. I use the 3" and the 3/8. So if you got bigger fish or you got bigger bait fish around and the bass are eating them, try a 3/8. If they want the small stuff, 3" works just great. So those are the baits that I really like to use. But what about like the terminal stuff? Like favorite free rig weight, hook, stuff like that. My favorite weight is gonna be the Ryugi, all right? So the DS Heavy Delta Tungsten, all right? And then you have the ringed tungsten in the lighter sizes, okay? So I really like this one because of the profile. The profile of this is long and it comes to a little bit of a bulb on the bottom right there. I really like this one because it comes in and out of stuff super easy. It's not a super fat weight or a round weight that's gonna go in between a rock and get caught. And remember, this is on your line, so if this breaks off, you're losing everything. And you're just gonna have to retie all over again. There's that right there. I really like this one. If I can't use this one, I'm gonna go to a Zappu pin-free shot, all right? A little bit different in shape. It's a little shorter, a little fatter, but it's still not your typical bell weight or round weight. There it is right there. It's got these smooth edges up here, so it gets caught up less than those weights. It's a great weight. It's black, the other one is silver. I don't know if that makes a huge difference, but some people prefer that. This is what I like to use if I'm unable to use the Ryugi. Great weight, casts well, lasts a long time. It's very, very well built, and both of them are tungsten. To protect my knot, the chain cushion from Zappu is what I'm using right here. So these come in 2 different sizes, medium and large. Just a rubberish ball that the line goes through. Comes set up like this. You just pluck one off. It has a hole going through the center. You put your line through it, put your weight, then chain cushion on there. Another option is the Mayura Dama from Ryugi. It's a little bit smaller, high vis, so this one glows in the dark. Another option to protect your knot if you need your knot protected. This is where I get technical with the free rig. Besides the bait, normally the terminal stuff, there's a little bit of thought in that, but the hook to me is very important. 3 hooks that I run on my free rig: the Ryugi Infini, the Bellows, and the Haymaker. The Ryugi Infini is my hook of choice when I'm fishing open water or maybe over like some small rock, gravel, and stuff like that. It's a thin wired coated hook. The penetration on this hook is crazy. Like, you barely have to put any pressure on her and that hook is getting in there. It's got this hybrid bend to it. It's not a wide gap, it's not a worm hook. It's in between. So it's got that bend to it right there. It's super thin wire, but it's a strong hook. I mean, we've caught countless big fish on it, 5, 6, 7 pounders. Caught an 8 last year on one of these. I've only had 1 failure ever, and it was my fault. I was pulling on some 16-pound line and 5+ pound smallmouth. Did not work out for the hook. And then Jeff got really upset when I did that. But it was cool. So the Ryugi Infini, super dope hook. That TC coat that Ryugi uses is amazing. It just lets that hook slide in there. When I need a heavier duty hook, I go to the Bellows. So the Bellows hook is literally the same hook, same bend, thicker wire, but sizing is gonna be a little bit different on this, okay? So it's a little longer here, thicker wire, still got that hybrid bend on there. It's still TC coated, but let me show you the difference in the sizing. So if you're using a 3/0 Infini, I would go to a 2/0 Bellows. I'll go 1 size down. These are both 3/0s. Yeah, so major difference in size of these hooks. Both 3/0s, but they're definitely different sizes. The gap's gonna be the same, but everything else is just different. So if you're using a 3/0 Infini, go to a 2/0 Bellows. And then if I'm going into cover, which is not a very good idea for the free rig, but sometimes you gotta get it into cover, I like the Haymaker. So again, another hybrid hook. So this is gonna be your wide gap straight shank hybrid hook. This one is definitely different. It's got that different bend to it with the hook that almost looks like it's pointing up. If I show you how to rig it, it's gonna make sense. So you're gonna rig it just like a traditional straight shank hook. So you're gonna come through, and instead of going through the bait and then skin hooking it, I'm just gonna pull the bait forward and push that hook into the bait to where the tip's barely coming out on the top right there. So if you're familiar with straight shank hooks, this will be super easy for you to figure out. This is a thin wire hook, but it's strong. I mean, Callan and I were out fishing in some of the nastiest jungle ever, flipping it and punching it, and we were just yanking fish out of there. No hook failures, no problems with the hooks. I really like it. Easy penetration, hookup ratio is really, really good. So there's that. And then you kind of want it to catch your finger a little bit right there, but you don't want to push it all the way through. That is the terminal and the baits that I like to use. Rod and reel choice for me is going to be the Megabass P5 Windbuster. All right, Windbuster is a f3.5 7.2. All right, 7'2", f3.5. This is going to be a medium, and the reel for me is going to be the Exist 3000H. High speed Exist. I don't know what to say about it except for it's fucking awesome. All right, best drag system on the market. Super lightweight. It's super comfortable to use, super responsive. The drag, I mean, when that fish needs to pull drag, it releases drag. When it doesn't, it doesn't. It's just a good reel. I really, really like it. Spool is not super deep, so you don't have 8 million yards of line on there. Super sick. The Destroyer P5, I keep on telling people this is the greatest mistake Megabass ever made, because this was built to be a reaction bait rod, treble hooks and all that stuff, but they made it super sensitive, which is crazy. I mean, the rod bends. It's soft at the tip, it bends. I mean, it bends enough to where you can lift and drop that bait without pulling it 7 feet towards you. You're gonna pull and that rod's gonna bend, and then you're gonna release, and the bait's gonna move 6 inches instead of 5 feet. Right? So it has the perfect action to run a free rig. You're going to feel everything on it. Every bite, every rock, every blade of grass. This ergonomic reel seat right here, I can put my hand on it and fish it. It fits perfectly in my hand. I can feel everything. I can put my finger on the blank, and such an amazing rod. Can't say enough good things about it, but that's my combo that I like to use. I've been experimenting with a lot of different lines to try to figure out what lines that I like and which lines that I don't like. The All Might right here, great line. I like the 18-pound All Might right there. It's a sinking braid. It has the insert so we don't get wind knots. Ties very good leader connection knots. Super strong. It is rigid, so it is going to make a little bit of noise coming through the guides, but it's not going to affect it that much. I also have been using the Samurai, 15-pound Samurai. Another great choice. Super good line. And my leader choice, I'm using a Sniper FC leader. Leader size is going to depend on where I'm fishing, what kind of structure or cover I'm fishing in. Most of the time I'm in that 12 to 16 pound range with my leader. It works out great for me. When I'm fishing open water, 12 pound works fine. I like to use a heavier line because I like to snap hook sets even with such a light combo. I like to snap hook sets. I like to really give it to the fish just to make sure it's not needed, but that's just like what I like to do.
It's more fun that way.
Yeah, I loosen my drag up a little more than normal, and I swing through the drag, get the fish, and I get them in, and then boom. There you go. If you're not a big fan of spinning gear, and you like to use a heavier free rig, like you want a 1 ounce weight, a 3/4 ounce, ½ ounce weight, and you like to use casting gear, every once in a while I'll throw something heavy like that, and I like to throw it on the Destroyer P5 FMJ, put a Kiowa Zillion SV on there, and I run 16-pound fluorocarbon. Super easy setup right there. This rod right here is another rod. It's a little bit faster, but once you add a little bit of weight to it, it's going to it's going to handle it very similar to the Windbuster. It's a strong rod, so you can really set your hook through the weight. If you got like a 1 ounce weight on there, that weight's gonna pretty much dominate what's going on down there. You can set your hook through the weight, hit that fish, and then get that fish in. It's got enough backbone to pull it through all kinds of gnarly stuff. Sometimes I throw the Windbuster in gnarly stuff, when I probably shouldn't, because I'm just so used to having it in my hand and I love to use it. And sometimes, you know, you win some and you lose some, but it's never because the rod fails. It's always gonna be something that you did. Wrong choice of leader, not enough tension on the drag, something you did, but it's never going to be a problem with the rod. The rod's going to fight the fish the way that it's supposed to. That's what I like to use all year round, but those baits that I just talked about are specifically for the fall. One thing I do want to say about the OSP baits is that they're very soft. We get a lot of people who talk about how soft they are. One thing about it is that if this bait wasn't as soft as it is, it would not get bit as much as it does. All right, that softness in this hinge on the Doe Live Beaver, I mean, it's very thin hinge right here. I mean, it makes the bait do amazing things. If they stiffened it up or made it harder, it just wouldn't move. If you want to get the bites, you gotta be willing to throw the bait. That is it, Callan. I think we covered everything. Talked about the baits. Drop your favorite baits down below. Let us know what you guys are fishing in the fall. If you like to throw the free rig, if you're new to the free rig, if you have any questions about the free rig, let us know down below in the comments. On behalf of everybody here at the Hookup, Ben, Callan, myself, everybody here, thank you so much. Thank you for your business, and I hope you guys have a great day.